Throughout history, different executioners made adaptations and changes to the way that executions were carried out. One of the most prolific methods used was the gallows, and the development of the hanging execution method changed a huge amount as the centuries passed. During the medieval period, criminals were simply hoisted into the air, and a noose around their neck had been tied, and then an executioner strangled the life out of someone. But later drop gallows were deployed, in which a prisoner went for a trapdoor and fell, and the intention with this was to snap the neck of someone. In America, one of the strangest gallows changes which was made saw a prisoner being hoisted up into the air rather than plunging through a trapdoor, and this device was known as the upright jerker, as the condemned was jerked up into the air. But this method did not catch on in its use for good reason, as it was not very successful at all, and things tended to be rather botched when it was used. Let's look at how the upright jerker gallows went very wrong. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Executioners throughout history tried to make their jobs better and easier in different ways. They tweaked and changed their tried methods of execution. For example, Johann Reichardt, a German executioner, managed to speed up the guillotine process in Germany so much that one of his victims could lose their heads in roughly 6 seconds from when they first entered the execution chamber. In America, there were different hangmen who were working on gallows as a method of death, and one of the most radical changes saw the upright jerker device get made. This execution method was used for hangings, and a cord or noose would be secured and wrapped tightly around the neck of the condemned person. But then instead of stepping onto a trapdoor and then being sent crashing through it, the condemned would be thrown up into the air, jerked violently upwards with the release of a system of weights and pulleys. The weights, when released, sent the prisoner into the air, and the point of this was that by going up into the air, the neck of the condemned would snap, and their death would be brought about quicker. The designers had good intentions when creating the device, but the reality was that the upright jerker did not go very well. The warden of the Connecticut State Prison, at Wethersfield, was the man who obtained a US patent for the device, and he referred to this as an automatic gallows, with the patent being issued in June 1895. Inside of Connecticut and a number of other states, there were some murderers and criminals who were executed using the upright jerker, though they went up into the air rather than go for a trapdoor on the gallows. One man who suffered this was Gerald Chapman, a criminal who was the first man to be labelled as public enemy number 1. It was said about his execution that a small blue chalk circle on the floor of the death chamber marked the end of Chapman's life journey. The noose was thrown over his neck, a black cap drawn over his head. An instant later, Connecticut's automatic hanging machine, used for the first time, had jerked the man into the air with 2 distinct motions. The body made a half spin in the air, and there were convulsive motions, particularly noticeable in the twitching of the feet. Then at the end of the rope hung an inert body, its momentum checked by the hand of the guard on either side, who could just reach an ankle. Chapman's face had a slight flush. The body was lowered until the feet touched the floor. Physicians examined the body. The execution did not go as straightforward as was hoped inside of the chamber. The problem was that the upright jerker was not very successful and efficient at snapping the neck of the condemned, but like hangings of the medieval period, the victim found themselves strangled and suffocated instead of dying quickly from a broken neck. Another man who suffered on the device was a criminal named James Stevens. It was documented of his execution that up went the culprit high into the air, not with a sudden violent jerk as usual, but slowly, as if by the strength of a man's arms, instead of a powerful weight of some 300 pounds. It became evident immediately that something was wrong, and soon a rumour went around that the rope had been unwound instead of cut by the hangman. It appeared that the executioner, who was inexperienced, got frightened, and thus the barbarous manner of the hanging the culprit was explained. It was extraordinary that under the circumstances the unfortunate wretch, suspended between heaven and earth, did not exhibit indications of violent suffering. The moment the rope tightened around his neck, and it was elevated about halfway up, a slight twitching of the fingers and kicking of the legs were perceptible. Then a few moments intervened with the slightest indication of suffering, except the hard breath, which was fearful to listen to. After hanging 2 minutes in this way, another convulsive throw took place. The vessels in the neck seemed to be swelled almost to bursting. The fingers and wrist assumed a bluish hue, and the feet twitched once or twice spasmodically. 3 minutes came, and with it a feeble tremor showed itself in the whole body, but it lasted only a few seconds, when all further motion ceased, and life seemed to be completely extinct. The surgeons, Doctors Woodward, Simmons, and Covell, viewed the body after the suspension of 5 minutes, and gave it as their opinion that animation was certainly gone, but the body was not lowered until 14 minutes had expired. The surgeons then again examined the body, found no pulse, and the flesh icy cold. Considering the circumstances, the culprit died a remarkably easy death, which was owing, doubtless, to the feeble condition of his constitution. Had he been in great strength at the time of his execution, there is no question that he would have struggled in the most frightful agony for half an hour. Things with this execution on the upright jerker certainly did not go as intended. The upright jerker as an execution method did not catch on, and it was shelved after a number of years, and was then withdrawn from use in the 1930s. Other gallows were preferred, which used a long drop or standard drop in America. The executioners who used the upright jerker thought it would make things quicker and easier, and they also thought it would bring the life of someone to an end quicker, but this really wasn't the case. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.